Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad along with Doug.
Hi.
So this is now part 3 of our Game of the Year series that happened.
Congratulations. Congratulations for getting part three.
If you made it through all 3, you're probably better than we are because that's a lot.
Yeah, send us a thing on Twitter. We'll get you a prize. We're not getting you any prizes.
You can get a invisible internet high five. I don't know how that'd work, but
I'm very close to making coffee cups. Maybe.
convince Doug to make coffee cups.
I've looked into it. I was like, I want one. I was like, maybe somebody else wants one. Who knows?
Anyway, so the Game of the Year series finale here is going to be a little bit different than the other two. So if you missed the other two, we'll have them linked here. But it's my top 5, it's Doug's top 5. Just going through our 5 favorite games of the year. This one's a little bit different. We've got just kind of some different categories, and then we're going to end off. So if you want to skip us rambling about nonsense and just hear what our Game of the Year is, you can skip to the end. At the end, we're just going to try and figure out if we can discuss, and I'll put that loosely in quotes because it'll probably just be us yelling back and forth about how Uncharted's better than The Witness. It'll probably just be that. But if you want to skip to that, that'll be at the end. But before we get into that, we're going to start with kind of a couple categories here. So the first category is the best ever something.
Yeah.
So this is like the loosest category. So just something that we picked out from any game this year that had the best ever or one of the best examples of a thing that we picked.
Yes.
So really loose category here. So, and again, we
Yeah.
don't talk about
Also,
this
real
before.
fast, we don't know the answers to any of these things that either of us have, like at all.
Yeah, I don't know Doug's answers. Doug doesn't know mine. So, out of curiosity, Doug, what is your best ever something?
My best ever getting into the mindset of a character is
That's a very specific one, but okay.
yeah. I'll lead into what this category is. So I feel like a lot of games, Half-Life 2 might be the best example because I played that one a lot. Half-Life 2 sets up a lot of like, you are Gordon Freeman. These are the characters that Gordon Freeman knows. Gordon Freeman is a scientist. You in Half-Life 1, you walk around a lab like Gordon Freeman. This is his job. Titanfall 2 recently, it's like, you are, I don't know that guy's name. Pilot. Not yet. You are Grunt.
Yes. You want to be pilot.
You want to
very
be pilot.
badly.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there is a sort of like, oh, okay, this is what this character is. And to me, that's that whole thing. It's like, okay, this kind of sets up the story of like, this is what that character is. And until this year, when VR became a thing, when you play Batman Arkham VR, just the opening few sequences,
Yes.
that gets you in the mindset of actually being Bruce Wayne and being Batman. Like, this is no longer a sort of like, oh, this is my character, how my character feels about these things. These are the people in my character. And I was like, I am that character. And there is no, like, thus far, I've never played any, like, a lot of games I feel try to emulate that feeling, or they try to make you feel like you're that character. But Arkham, like, they make you go through what it's like to be Batman.
Yeah, for sure. And and we talked about this in one of our VR videos. That initial 10 to 15 minutes in a VR game is so crucial in getting you in the mindset of you are this. And out of, I've probably played half a dozen 10 VR games over the past couple months, and Batman for sure is the one that gets you there the best and the quickest. And just as soon as you hit those keys on that piano, you're just like, oh, and the bat symbol pops up. You're just like, oh, yay. And then you like putting your hands in the things, and all of a sudden they're Batman hands. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and I think like, because our Arkham Knight's like an easy example. Like, it's like, ooh, I get to play as Batman, and this one you're like, no, you are Batman.
Yeah, you are literally Batman.
Yeah, yeah, I really appreciate that, because I think it's one of those things that games have been trying to do for a really long time that they just could not do.
For sure, and I have to agree with that completely. I don't think any games ever given me that feeling like Batman did. So my best ever something, I was almost tempted to do something like you did, because I felt like VR was really underrepresented in my top 5. So I almost went with best VR game, but I felt like that was kind of a cop out, because VR's only been a thing to me personally for like 3 months. I'm like, that's kind of a cop out. So
yeah, and the best VR game's probably going to be a Vive game. Like, totally honest, probably not a PSVR game.
Definitely one I haven't played. But anyway, so my thought was to throw Star Wars VR in here, but I didn't go that way. My thought with this was, and this might not be the best ever, but certainly of the last 5 to 10 years, is Overcooked with the best couch co-op multiplayer that I have seen in years.
Best
in my
couch
mind.
co-op Because honestly, the one in my head is Time Splitters 2.
Yep. And that was my thing, is like I had to go back like to like PlayStation 2, Nintendo 64, like that kind of era to get anything else. And it's just, it might not be the best ever, but in something that is, I feel like, slowly becoming a thing of a past, it just came out of nowhere and was like, remember how awesome this is.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of a cop out of not the best ever, but definitely the best of the last 5 to 10 years. And this is a game that I think I've maybe put, I'm definitely not done with it. I'm maybe maybe a quarter of the way through, but just,
yeah.
I've sat down and I've played it with 2 or 3 different people now, and every person I've sat down and played it with are just like, whoa, this is so much fun. Like, and it gets into that mindset of like, you really have to work with this person, and it's just something that has disappeared from gaming, I feel like. And yes, there's online co-op, but there's something special about sitting in a room with somebody on a couch screaming at your friend about how they can't make a damn soup. Like,
yeah. And honestly, this is like one of the few games where I think it's one of the few co-op games that actually requires real cooperation. I feel like a lot of, like, I haven't played Gears of War, but I know there's a lot of shooters. I have played co-op shooters, like Destiny's probably the most recent one. I know it's a bad example, blah blah, but it's the most recent one I've played, where it's like your friends are pretty much just like adding damage per second.
Yeah, it's that support role versus that truly that team effort of like, you have to be on the same page. You have to be talking. 90% of co-op games, I can completely pretend you're not even here and still be fine. If I pretend the other person's not here, that kitchen's on fire. Like, literally, that kitchen just erupts into flames, and then we die and go, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But just being able to play this, and I'm trying to think. I think 2 of the people that I played it with are people who just don't play games. I played it with my wife, who never really plays games, and she loved it. I played it with my brother, who has kind of like abandoned or moved on from games over the past 5 to 10 years, like hasn't played nearly as many as he used to. And it was one of those games where he just like said, I was like, no, you have to play with this with me. It's awesome. And he was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah. So just even seeing that outsider perspective and how it can bring people into it, just awesome game.
Yeah. I'm not going to totally rain on your parade. I don't know if it's better than Portal 2 co-op.
Oh, Portal 2 co-op. Shoot.
Sorry.
Well, like I said, like last 5 to 10 years. So Portal 2's got to be pushing what, 3 or 4 years at this point.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, it's good. It's still up there. I'm not saying you're wrong. But
again, you know what? In my mind, I might put this above Portal 2 co-op, because Portal 2 co-op is good and it's great and it's fantastic and I love playing through it.
Yeah.
But this is just a level of fun. You know what I mean? Portal 2, like, and maybe it's because of my lack of ability at puzzle games, gets frustrating and just gets irritated and just gets me going like, you just figure this damn thing out until I put my damn portal.
Yeah.
Versus this, where it's just, even if you're failing, it's like, oh my god, like you can just do that. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm so into this when I'm into this. So I might even put this above Portal 2 co-op in my mind.
I think it's because you don't need to figure out the goal. The goal's pretty clear, I think, for the beginning. And even when you're failing, you're like, you know what, we could still pull this out. While in Portal 2, like, if you can't pull it out, you're just stuck. And I think this
you're just standing there going up and down through portals, looping up and down, seeing how fast you go because you're bored as shit.
Yeah, no, exactly. I didn't have the exact same experience, but I do know exactly what you're talking about. So I could see that going either way. But yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think of doing that. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right, so our next category, and this is a Doug category because it's not a thing that I put nearly as much stock in, but this is the prettiest game / best art design type thing. I'm gonna get mine out of the way first because mine's gonna be about 30 seconds, and it's gonna be Uncharted 4 because the character models and just the visuals of that and standing on top of a mountain is just something that I've never seen look that good in a game before. And it doesn't have necessarily great quote unquote art design or whatever. It's very just, this is what the world looks like, but it does that in a way that I feel like is just head and shoulders above any other game that I've ever seen. So this is kind of your thing, so go for it.
Yeah, no, I can see that with Uncharted 4. I think Uncharted 4 with me, I think we even talked about in the review. It didn't really, the graphics I thought were great. I just thought like, oh, okay, it does look like the real world, and I understand there's a lot of work that went into it, and there's a lot of work into making a fantastic fake world that looks like the real world, so I can appreciate that. I think, just because I want to talk about this game at Game of Year at all was Abzu. I think we both played Abzu as well. But to me, Abzu was just a living, breathing art piece. There's just something about like there's scenes in that game like I just have not seen animated. Inside is probably another one that I throw up there as well, where it's just like, oh, these are things I would normally see in like digital art, not something I'd ever actually see playable in a game, and they made it playable, and I freaking love that. Like the whale scene in Abzu is just it's incredible.
And I guess in my mind, like, I think, and again, this is why I think this is more of a your category than opposed to mine, because that doesn't even register in my brain. It's just like, okay, I'm just flying next to these whales. Like, this is, it's one of those things that I'm looking at, I'm like, wow, this is really pretty. Okay, what am I supposed to do? That's it? Okay. Yep, I released the fishes from the hole. Great. Okay, what's next? You know what I mean? And I think that's where me and you appreciate different things about games. And I think that's where it's me when I think, what is the best looking or the prettiest game or whatever you want to call this, it's just I go straight to, that game looks better than any other game I've seen before. I don't necessarily take into effect the, like, I mean, because some of those things where you're like, I don't even remember exactly how it went, but you're kind of like just straight forwarding path and there's fish coming at you and swimming all around you.
Yeah.
There's some pretty crazy things that do happen in that. So I could totally see that. And I think from more of that artistic perspective of that game is kind of just a living, breathing digital painting as opposed to a game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, it's not graphically the best looking game. Like, it's not. But to me, art design wise, the other games I'd probably throw in there is Hitman. I think Hitman has a really understated art design where it's has a very cool sheen look to everything and everything about that game that I just don't think is really I've seen before in other games. Like, you don't really see it's a very subtle graphic art style that I don't think is really appreciated, that I really like. And then the other one was The Witness. But I think Abzu had my jaw dropping like a number of times playing that game. And I can understand why other people it wouldn't, but I just thought that just the colors and everything. That's just the sort of art that I absolutely love. So
yeah, and knowing you and having seen you play video games, I can, as I'm playing Abzu, I can just in my mind picture Doug sitting there going, what? Whoa.
That was my whole experience playing Abzu. Is like, I'm gonna swim around here forever.
Just swimming in circles. Look at that whale over there.
Yeah, I think I beat it like 2 or 3 times too, because I like that game. I don't think it's a great game design wise. It's not nearly as good as some of the other like games we said in our top 5, but it's just pretty.
Yeah, I can get behind that. So our next category is the best individual level from any game released this year. So level, scene, part, however that goes, just as games have kind of come to define that term level loosely. The best chunk of a game you had this year. So for you, what was it?
That was going to be, I know this was in my top 5 was Hitman Episode 2, but my favorite level was not that. My favorite level was,
okay, so the
I know. We're not going to get into it.
Third best game of the year.
I know it's wrong.
Okay, continue.
I know I'm cheating.
We'll pretend nobody saw your part of the game of the year thing, so nobody knows that one level was one of your best games of the year.
We're not GameStop or GameSpot, and we're not IGN. We can do whatever we want.
Yet.
This was just like by far like my best gaming experience of the year was Area X from Res Infinite.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
I think if there's anything to justify a purchase of a PlayStation VR, not even justify a purchase, just like that was just. It's like just utterly mind blowing. There's nothing to even describe. It's like there's nothing I could just write. Like even Arkham, like I can still sort of describe the other things. Like, oh, it's sort of like an intro to a video game, but you can actually be inside it. Like Res Area X, like there's nothing I can readily describe that it's like playing. Maybe being inside fireworks. I don't know. Being inside sentient fireworks.
Having just watched like a clip of that after you did the review, and I still haven't played it, but just watching a clip of that, I could totally see just how in VR that could be just making your mind go crazy with all the stuff that's going on and just everything. So I could totally see that.
Yeah, it's got like, besides just like a really, really slick art design of like the fireworks and the bright lights and everything like that, it also has a very cool sense of scale. Like they have some very, very large creatures that you don't like. I just haven't seen that I mean, you've seen other video games, but just seeing like a very, very large creature in VR, there's something very exciting about that. So that plus fireworks plus cool soundtrack plus other crazy shit, it was just
yeah, I can see that. So I kind of use this as my cop-out way to talk about Star Wars VR, because I was like, well, I can't call it best ever because it's only been 2 months. And I can't put it in my top 5. You know what? That's just a level. That's the best level of any game this year. Just because, like, you sit in that X-Wing, and you can read my review of it where I just sit here and talk about it for, like, 20 minutes about how amazing that 15-minute level is. And I could sit here and talk about it for forever. But just the feeling you get of sitting in that X-Wing, like you talked about with Batman, the way that you have to kind of look around to see everything, the way that you can push every button, and it doesn't necessarily fit the typical level description, but that's essentially what it is it's a level out of Battlefront, and it takes the Battlefront controls, it puts them into this VR thing, and it changes the way that game plays, even though it is very similar to the way the vehicles are handling in that, and just seeing the Star Destroyer come at you and seeing the TIE fighters whipping past you and just, you know, just even just sitting there looking behind you and seeing the little R2 unit beep at you. Like, there's just everything about that game is exactly what I wanted a Star Wars VR thing to be. It just, it completely, like you said with Batman, just engrosses you into what it would be like to be an X-Wing pilot. And then the little Rogue One tie-in at the end is just awesome, and I love that.
It's okay. It's really funny because I think that level is like a normal video game level. It's just okay, but it's like you're in an X-Wing.
You know, and that's probably very true.
An X-Wing. Like,
I think that's very true because I think everything it's like you talked about with Batman. Like, Batman would be the most boring game if you played Arkham VR just on your TV. It would not have the same feeling, and I think that's what this does. Where, if you literally take everything out of that, you put you in a third-person view of that X-Wing, and the X-Wing just goes through and does all the same stuff you do, you'd be like, why the hell did you even bother releasing this? But putting you in the VR is just changes it completely and just makes it this amazing thing. So that's my cop-out way to talk about Star Wars VR without considering it a top 5 game of the year, because it's not really a game. So
I think that's kind of interesting. I didn't expect us both to do VR stuff. I thought it was just kind of like messing around with the VR stuff. I didn't realize I was thinking after you did your top 5, I was like, I'm surprised the Star Wars thing wasn't on there. He's got to talk about that at some point.
Yep, this is my cop-out way to not put it in there because I can't consider that a game in my mind yet.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one that's has nothing to do with 2016, but it's just fun to talk about, and that's the best game we played this year that's not from this year. So we've talked about a couple of times that we don't necessarily always buy games day one. So some of these are games that from a year or two ago that's like, it finally hit $20, so we bought it, or whatever the case may be. So what is your best game from not this year?
Yeah, I actually did a review of this. It got an abnormal amount of views. Much to Brad's curmudgeoniness.
It is like our third most viewed video somehow, and I still have yet to figure out why.
It shouldn't be. It's not even a great video, to be honest. of our content, it's not my favorite. But Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve was, real quick, if you haven't watched our video, it was a game that I did not like as a kid and kept hearing about. I really like the second one. But the first one, I just kept hearing about it. I was like, fine, I'll play it. It's great. It's so much fun. It's such a good, active. I wouldn't say it's an action RPG, but it's a much more active turn-based game that I'm used to playing. And it's just got a great setting, just a lot of fun. It actually still looks pretty good. It's like Resident Evil meets Final Fantasy. Like, it's great. It's just fun. It's a good game.
Yeah, I can see that. And this is another game that I brushed off as a kid that after listening to you talk about it in that review, I went, well, you know what the hell, I'll give it a shot. So I put a couple hours into it too, and I could totally see that because it is that weird mix of genres, and there's so much cool with that. So just to see a game from, you know, like 15 years ago still holding up that well, it's really cool to see that. And it is still a cool game. And again, like I said, I put a couple hours into it. I didn't get to the end, I don't think, but it is something that holds up really well.
Yeah, it holds up surprisingly well for the type of game it is.
I mean, and really that should get some kind of love from this, since it is like our third most viewed video ever for whatever damn reason. Apparently you all still love Parasite Eve, so great.
I still think a lot of people review Parasite Eve. We got to review some other games that people don't talk about.
What random game from the past 20 years can we pick that nobody gives a crap about too much anymore, but enough people do to actually watch a video?
Yeah, but it can't be like super wacky because all the YouTubers already done the super wacky weird games. It's got to be like a very normal game.
Medium. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I do have a good one. It's Silent Bomber. Silent Bomber, nobody talks about. That game's awesome.
I don't even know what that is, so...
Exactly. Somebody does, though.
Anyway, so my game from not this year is a game that pretty much consumed my January and February.
Yeah.
And that is Xenoblade Chronicles X. Which came out last November, December, and it was one of those games I just didn't have time to play towards the end of last year, so I got pushed into this year, and I think over the course of January and February, I put dozens of hours into that game, and it's that just perfect RPG. If you can go anywhere, you can do anything, and the way things build, and just the story in the game of, you know, you're on the ship and you crash and you're trying to figure all this stuff out, and it builds up to the point where you're just running around, so you get your, oh god, it's been thank you. I forgot the name of the giant robot, the Scal, and just flying around with that, and there's so much just difference and variation in the creatures and in the different chunks of the planet that you're on as you go through it. It's one of those games that I feel like every time I went somewhere, I saw something new over the course of those 40, 50, however many hours I put into it. as you're going through this, you're seeing something new all the time. So I don't think I ever ended up finishing it just because I spent so much time just like doing the little like I'm just gonna walk. Ooh, what's over here? So I don't know if I even ever got to the end of the story, but you know, after all that time of just putting in just ooh, what's over here? What's over here? Ooh, can I? And my favorite part of that is you see these gigantic things walking when you first start, and they're, you know, like skyscrapers, just looking up like, oh my god, that thing could step on me. And then 30 hours later, you're taking down those things like nothing. And it's just, it's so cool the way that progresses in the game. And yeah, it's a fantastic game. I think it's, you know, really one of the last big Wii U titles. And if you have a Wii U, that is probably the best game on that. Yeah, I think I'm safe in saying that. I'm trying to go through my mind, but I think I'm safe in saying that's probably the best Wii U game out there. So,
is it better than Tropical Freeze? Because I know you played that one too.
Oh yeah, Tropical Freeze is great, but that's better.
Yeah. Really funny, actually, really interesting. You were not talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X on as Workforce Gaming.
Really?
Yeah, we were not Workforce Gaming at that point. I might link to that just in like little thing that we were not Workforce Gaming at that point. Yeah. Big year.
You grew up so fast.
Yeah.
That sad, pathetic thing we did that was so much worse than this.
It's actually pretty good. I actually listened to our last year's Game of the Year. I'll post that too. Maybe our last year's Game of the Year
might be
awards.
Fun.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into our Game of the Year discussion, I think this is a fun one to do. This is the best game we didn't finish for whatever reason is out there that you wouldn't finish a game that you really, really love. Mine was very, very easy this year, and that is Overcooked. And I think everything.
Oh, weird! I thought it'd be Tales. Because I know you were playing Tales a lot. I thought
that didn't come out. I don't think that didn't come out this year. But anyway, just again, everything I said about it before, and the only reason I didn't finish it is just because I think I played for like 10 minutes by myself. It's like, this is not the same game on my own. So it's just one of those things where it's like, well, in order to play through this, I got to get my wife to play for like a half hour with me, and she only play games for like a half hour chunk at a time. So it's like I just never got pushed off, never got around to. So the game is amazing though, and I think I talked about it enough earlier, but just that game is so good, and it's just so much fun. It's a fun game, and I think a lot of times we get caught up in stories and graphics and all this other stuff to just forget like you can just have a game that's just dumb fun where you're just cooking food.
Yeah, that game also has a pretty solid art style, I'll say as well. I like how it looks. I like how it looks. It's a good looking game.
Absolutely. But anyway, your game you didn't finish this year.
Thumper. I played a lot of Thumper. I want to talk about Thumper so much.
I thought you finished that.
No, I talk about it like I got it was like the first thing I got for PlayStation VR, so I've had it for a long time. It's just it's a hard game. It's so freaking hard. And it's a game that's like really good for 10-minute chunks. So I've just been playing it in 10-minute chunks for like the last
2 months.
A few months or whatever. So I just never finished it. But it's like I want to talk about it like plenty of times, but I just never got around to it. The thing I really like about the game, I think it's one of the few rhythm games that I feel like this is such a weird feeling to describe. I think I talked a little bit before, but like every note hits like a brick because they're just the art style, how you're actually like dodging things or you're blowing things up essentially as you're going through the game. That like it feels like every single note hits. I love that feeling. Just that it's kind of like firing a gun or something like that. It's like it's like the closest feeling I've had to like shooting a gun. And it's just really cool. I like games that hit really hard, and I feel like there's not many games that do that. I feel like many games, because like try to think of a game I've played recently that might have this. A lot of stylish action games like swipe, and that's like that's the feeling. There's not many times like where those games like hit hard, or even like Call of Duty and stuff, or like those games like it's like a plink 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 plink. But this one just like I'm like trying to describe a feeling, but it's like every note hits like a brick, and I really really like that. It's just an intense game. It's really hard. I just didn't finish it. I'm not gonna finish it.
Yeah, that's a game that I need to get around to playing that just because I do love rhythm games, and
it's really good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard from many a person.
Pretty good.
All right. Yeah. So now that we've got all the cordial stuff out of the way, let's figure out what our game of the year is, because this isn't going to go well. So basically the way this goes is we're going to try and agree on one, which is never fun, because if you've watched our videos of our personal top fives, the only one that was in agreement to both was Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't have any way really to go about this, but yeah, I don't know how we're going to start this. We should have thought about this a little bit more.
Did you like Android Assault Cactus or no?
I did, yes.
I kind of want to put that as our game of the year.
No, hell no.
I played so much of that game. I didn't bring it up or anything. Is that a hell no?
No.
Okay.
Yes, that is no.
Can we put Overcooked? I feel stronger about Overcooked than I do Titanfall 2.
That was my thought too. As I was looking at this, it's like the only reason Overcooked's not in my top 5 is because I felt like I couldn't give a top 5 game of the year game to a game that I only put 2 or 3 hours into. But if it's an agreement between both of us and you did, because I would feel, because like you said, like Titanfall 2 is great, and I could very easily see going Titanfall 2 just because that is a game that I think we both appreciated for very similar reasons, and there's a lot of good to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my other thought, and I think this is even a bigger cop out, is I liked your putting PSVR as your number 2 game.
My next talk was gonna be, do you want to do Arkham VR? That was my next one. I'd like literally not even kidding. My next one was like Arkham VR.
Yeah, but I don't know if I could go Arkham VR as opposed to just like you did, just go like it's just PSVR. That's our game. But that feels really horrible.
That's
that
so bad. I do it though, because honestly, like when I was thinking back to my best experiences of the last year, like it was Area X. It was Arkham VR, Thumper was up there, and oh shoot, there's what the heck? Oh, and the platformer game that was in the Playroom.
Oh yeah, yep.
And I saw like, oh, those were like my best experiences. They were all VR. Like I could do that. I'd be comfortable doing that.
See, I feel like we should almost put that like to a side note and go like the best thing in gaming is PSVR, but I really feel like there needs to be a game. You know what I mean? Like,
does it though? We're so see. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I think Titanfall 2 is a great game that was essentially it did prior game mechanics and combined them in an interesting and excellent way. To me, it's like Darksiders. Like Darksiders, I think is really good, but I don't think it does a lot new. It just does a lot of old things well and combined in interesting ways.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that, and that's my hesitation of going like that's the best game of the year. Like I said, like that stood out to me as just being a game that was very, very well made. And it's great and it's fun and I love the story and everything, but it's hard to sit back and go, was the best game this year Titanfall 2? Like
it was PlayStation VR.
But like when I think about like the experiences I had with Overcooked, when I think about, and I feel like this one's thrown out just because I know your feelings on it, when I think about how I felt playing Uncharted 4, you know, those, like you said, those experiences, like if I were to think about like my best experiences this year, in my mind I instantly swing to Star Wars VR, Uncharted 4, and Overcooked. Those are 3 of the things I think I had the best quote unquote experience with. Just sitting down and playing Overcooked with somebody, just the realness of the story of Uncharted 4 in that very unreal world, and then just like I said earlier, just the feeling of flying an X-Wing. Those 3 things stick out in my brain as those are the 3 best things that happened to me in gaming this year.
Yeah, see, because I definitely throw Overcooked in that. But to me, the Witness was also kind of I played a lot of that game with family members, sitting next to me and pointing things out, and like trying to solve puzzles together. So that was to me like a really good co-op game as well. So it'd be kind of hard to push. I didn't finish Overcooked ever either. I mean, I got like 99% of the way. I had like 2 or 3 levels left before I just like, okay, I get this game. I have enough. There's enough that I can talk about it for sure. And just say like the experience I had with it thus far was excellent, and everybody should get it. Yeah, because I don't want to. Really though, it was like PSVR stuff just like blew my. Because here's another thing with PSVR. Did you get to show it to family members? Did you? Yeah,
I did it with a couple of people. Yeah.
And I thought that was a lot of fun too. It was like not cooperative experiences, but I thought that was really interesting. Like I got to show it to family members and people who had not tried it before, and that was to me personally really exciting. So besides the fact that I had great experiences in it, it was neat to share that with other people.
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, I've been giving my brother crap for a couple of weeks now since that Christmas he decided to start kicking the air in front of him playing Kitchen, and that's fantastic. So I guess then some of that stands out in my mind, and like watching my wife sit here and eat donuts and pretend to throw up because that's what her character is doing, and just people getting into that, and I could see that. Like I don't know, I don't know, because even you said like this is a cop out when you did it on your list, and I was like, I feel like that is such a like cop out move to be like, our best game is this essentially new system.
Well, the thing is, it's just like, what was your favorite thing this year? And like my favorite experiences besides I mean, Overcooked I'd throw up there. What I would put up there is was PSVR experiences. Like I just thought there was just too much cool stuff about that I just found too exciting. And the thing is, like, I guess we could say it's a cop out, but I mean, we're not IGN. We don't have to say what the best game is. Like, the best game is probably Uncharted 4. I didn't like it though.
I agree. So the Workforce Gaming Game of the Year is Uncharted 4, as you just heard Doug state with very much confidence. So that'll do it.
Stop. No, because I think Uncharted 4 was probably the best game. Like, I don't like it. It's probably the best game though. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I don't know. Because to me, this like just the best experiences I had in gaming this year were VR.
And I think, and the more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm thinking that's probably fair to say, is that a lot, if I think back to some of my favorite things doing games and the things that even, I don't necessarily think this is necessarily, there's not ever necessarily a correlation of this being favorite or best, but the conversations I've had around gaming the most this year have centered around VR.
Yeah.
Especially with non-gaming people, like, I mentioned my brother, my wife, just even like some coworkers at work who I know don't play a whole lot of video games, like just talking about that with these types of people and going like, oh my gosh, like this thing is crazy, and seeing people try that. So I think I'm okay with that. Let's go with PlayStation VR.
PlayStation VR plus $50 in games.
The PlayStation VR demo disc and Batman and Star Wars.
I really like the Playroom a lot. I love the Playroom.
Yeah, see, I didn't get into the Playroom that much. I
you should play the Playroom more. And just definitely play that more. Yeah. Until Dawn's pretty fun too. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff on that.
Was good. Yeah, and I think that's I think you can almost put that as a summative package. Like if you got PSVR, chances are you didn't just get Batman. I think most people got PSVR, got the demo disc, got Playroom. I mean, then even if you think about like the majority of the stuff that we're talking about, with the exception of Batman, you can experience for free.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, surprising amount of stuff for free.
Thinking about Job Simulator, I've played through the Job Simulator demo 3 or 4 times myself, and that's the first thing I show people when I get it, and I haven't even bought that game. But it's that perfect 10-minute introduction. So I think that even the $500 package alone on its own is a good thing to sit here and say without even going, you really need to buy Batman, and you really should have Battlefront so you can play the Star Wars one. You can get the same feeling from that if you're not a Star Wars fan playing the Call of Duty Jackal mission that's free, or playing the Eve Valkyrie demo. So I think let's go with that. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, cool. No, that was far less throwdown than last time. Last time, like, we had like 3 game of the years because we couldn't figure out if Until Dawn or Splatoon was better.
Last year, I just remember yelling at you that Rocket League is the best thing ever, and you going, but Until Dawn, and me going, yeah, Until Dawn. That was a great thing too.
Yeah. Okay, I guess if you haven't been following us for a long time, our game of the year last year was Until Dawn, Rocket League, and Splatoon.
Did we really have a 3-way split like that?
Yeah, we did. It was really bad.
We didn't.
And Bloodborne.
We didn't even bother picking one.
No, because we couldn't decide. I think no, because we were really throwing down. We were throwing down as our combined one was Until Dawn versus Splatoon or Rocket League.
I thought I gave up Splatoon because I was like, well, you haven't played this, you're not gonna understand.
Yeah, it was between Until Dawn and Rocket League then, because I listened to it recently.
But yeah, well, we'll link that too, because that'll be fun. Because I forgot that that's not on this one anymore. So we'll maybe upload that on this channel too, just for fun. But anyway, there it is, PlayStation VR Game of the Year. Yeah, kind of, if that's a game.
Thing of the year.
Thing of the year.
It's so different than just saying it's a console too. There's too much weird new stuff about it to just say
it's too much of a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And then if you want to get touchy, call it Overcooked. Why not?
Sure. Yeah.
If you're pissy about that, it's Overcooked. Okay, fine. There you go.
Deal. I'll give you that.
All right. Well, we will be back through 2017 with a whole bunch more stuff as we were this year. But thank you for listening over the past, I don't remember if we've been doing this for like 8 months this year. So
March-ish.
Yeah. So thank you for listening over the course of our first year. And PlayStation VR, first game of the year from Workforce Gaming, the first annual giant prestigious award that gets you literally nothing except for a couple hundred people hearing you on YouTube. So there you go. But you can subscribe to us here. Comment below what your games are, if you think PSVR is a cop out or not, and we will see you later.
Bye.